Juggalos in recovery.
Juggalos in recovery, man.
All the juggalos in recovery. Be proud of you. Juggalos in recovery. Those who want to help you are juggalos.
What's up, y'all? It's your boy Sober. Today we are going to start a series on the Juggalos in Recovery 12 steps. Today we're going to do step 1. Step 1 is we were powerless over our addiction and we couldn't handle life anymore. With step 1, it's talking about when we became powerless over our addiction, when we hit rock bottom. So, for one thing we need to remember is that every one of us has a different rock bottom. Something that might cause you to have an epiphany that you're powerless over your addiction might be something that you or the other person or another person deals with every day, so it's not a bottom for them. But what we have to remember is when it comes to dealing with your rock bottom, when you're dealing with feeling hopeless and lost and unloved and unwanted and everything's going wrong in your life, you have to understand that this is the very first step to you becoming a person that you want to see in the mirror. So when it comes down to it, step 1 is one of the biggest steps that we deal with. Here is a couple of things I got from the AA 12 Steps and 12 Traditions book on step 1. The very first 2 sentences are, "Who cares to admit complete defeat? Practically no one, of course." See, that spoke very strong to me because you have to hit rock bottom. You have to hit your rock bottom and become desperate enough to try anything before you are able to get sober and clean. So if you are in active addiction and you haven't hit your rock bottom yet, I'm not saying that there's no chance. I'm saying there's a slimmer chance that you'll be able to receive all of what recovery has in store for you. The next one is, we perceive that only through utter defeat are we able to take our first steps toward liberation and strength. Our admissions of personal powerlessness finally turn out to be firm bedrock upon which happy and purposeful lives may be built. And that just reiterates what I just said. You have to completely be desperate. You have to be willing to try anything so you can, in turn, in the long run, live a very happy, productive, purposeful, strengthening life. Until he so humbles himself, his sobriety, if any, will be precarious. Of real happiness he will find none at all. Proved beyond doubt by the immense experience, this is one of the facts of AA or recovery life. My translation of that is, until you are ready to admit defeat over your addiction, you will not be able to live a have any real happiness in your life. And it's been proved beyond any doubt through every experience with addicts that this is just how it is with recovery in life for addicts. Then we had been told that so far as alcohol or your addiction is concerned, self-confidence was no good whatever. In fact, was a total liability. Our sponsors declared that we were the victims of a mental obsession so subtly powerful that no amount of human willpower could break it. See, they say self-confidence is not good, whatever. What that translates to me is that in recovery, your ego is your worst enemy. And it will be a total liability for you if your ego is unchecked. Our sponsors declared that we were the victims of a mental obsession so subtly powerful that no amount of human willpower could break it. So if no human willpower can break it, then what can? Community, love, happiness, helping others, being humble, having humility, working together, working with someone, reminding yourself that you do not have to go through this alone, and asking for help when you need it. And as recovering addicts, we always need help, no matter how hard that is for you to accept. Why all this insistence that every AA or person in recovery must hit bottom first? The answer is that few people will sincerely try to practice the AA or recovery program unless they have hit bottom. And that goes with what I said in the beginning. You will not put sincere, true, honest, brutal effort into your recovery if you still think you can control your addiction. So if you still think you can control your addiction, go out and try it. When I was drinking, I tried staying with one form of alcohol, only this or that. Tried, I'll only do it on the weekends. I'll only have 2 a day. Or, I'll try this or I'll try that. None of that worked. All that worked was stopping. And for us addicts, that's what we have to do. With that, much love to you all. Whoop whoop.
Juggalos in recovery, man.
So for me, my personal experience, this is my bottom. My drinking career lasted from when I was about 19 or 20 to 24 or 25. I was 24, turning 25 the following month. This is the story of my rock bottom. Me, and now ex-girlfriend, and a buddy of mine who went camping for the 4th of July. Before we actually got to the campsite for the night, me and my ex-girlfriend went and did something with her family. Before we went there, I had started off with a couple of strawberry Ritas. At that point, it was my pre-game. So I had a couple of those, went out with her family and stuff, then we got back to the campsite and built a fire and, you know, started drinking and whatever. And within a few hours, I had drank a couple more pre-mixed drinks and started with rum and cokes. That was my drink of choice. And I got plowed. I started getting into a very, very bad headspace, and ended up pushing my best friend at the time away to where he left the campsite. So it was only me and my ex-girlfriend. And from the stories that I was told, I don't remember, I was blacked out. I passed out in the bed of my truck. She woke me up to get me into the tent so we could, you know, not get eaten by mosquitoes. And when she woke me up, I flipped out. I threw her around, tried to close the door, truck door on her, left bruises the size of softballs and bigger on her legs. I remember at one point during all of this, I had woken up like out of my blackout state and, you know, actually woken up next to the fire, and I looked at my truck and I saw her in the truck screaming at me not to hurt her anymore. I will never forget the look on her face. It's one of the things that keeps me sober. I was always told to remember my last drunk, and if I ever feel like drinking or get the urge, I go through the night that I last drank. Apparently during my blackout, I had taken her phone, taken it apart, and thrown it in the woods. She called her mother with my phone. Her mother showed up, called the cops. I got in my truck, almost ran her over, and drove off, blacked out drunk. According to the police report, they had pulled me over, and when the cop got out of his car, I took off. This was up in Illinois, and it was on a country road, and I had apparently pulled over on the opposite side of the road, where there was a cornfield, and when I took off, I apparently misjudged or something, and there was a entrance to the cornfield, and I came and I ramped up it. And when I picked up my truck from impound lot, there was still grass underneath my truck that was wedged in there pretty good. But anyways, I continued driving to my apartment. I get to the stoplight at the end of the country road. I take a left, and my apartment's not that far, like a few hundred feet. But after doing all this, I stopped at the red light, even though it was 3-4 o'clock in the morning. And I watched the cop lights in the rearview mirror getting closer and closer. Once the light turned green, I turned onto the main road, and by the time I turned, the cops had caught up with me. I was speeding 98 in a 55. I don't remember much of anything else. I remember they pulled their guns on me once they pulled me over, and just like a cop's video, like the cop show, put my hands out the window, opened the door from the outside, I was in my old combat boots and ripped jeans and no shirts, and so I looked like I didn't look very presentable. And the first things I said to the cop was, "I'm drunk." And remember going in and out of consciousness during processing, getting put in jail. They charged me with DUI, speeding, and the domestic assault. The domestic assault and the speeding ended up getting dropped, so all I got was a DUI. But while I was in jail, after I had sobered up, a lot of God started playing, not playing. God started showing himself to me in very different ways, remembering phone numbers that I didn't realize I knew, just randomly coming to me while I was laying in my bunk. The people in there were helping me. So it was my rock bottom, because the way I was brought up, you were never supposed to hurt a female. I was a goody two shoes. I never did anything really wrong, followed rules and stuff, and so me going and being in jail and doing the things that I did caused a trigger in my head to say, "Hey dude, you have a problem." Even though I got in trouble with the military and all of this other stuff that happened while I was drinking, this was the end all be all for me. So I knew that I needed help. And I reached out. I talked to my grandfather, who's a recovering alcoholic, been sober 20 plus years. My father's been sober 20 plus years. My father told me I needed to find a newcomer meeting, and I went to an AA meeting a couple weeks after I got out of jail. And I started working to get my life back to where I wanted it to be. It's been a very interesting long road, and I still learn every day something new about life. Those first 6 months, I was in a rough spot because I didn't know how to handle the emotions that come with getting sober, because I drank to escape, because I never knew the healthy way to deal with emotions. So I reached out to my grandmother just about every other day, sometimes every day, and with her guidance, I've been able to learn a lot about how to handle emotions properly, how to handle situations, how to deal with people, so on and so forth. So when it comes down to learning that you're powerless over your addiction, and that your life you can't handle it anymore, it's up to what you're willing to deal with. Step one is just the realization that you need help. And if you need help, Juggalos in Recovery is there for you. We are going to help you out with everything we can. So with that, much love, stay sober, stay clean, be happy, and remember, you are loved. Whoop whoop.
Juggalos in Recovery, man.